So follow-up questions. What I mean here is that the examiner asks a question based on what you said. Now, part 3 is the most important part of the speaking test. It doesn't really matter how good or bad you have gone in part 1 and 2. I mean, of course, it's good if you've done better, but that's not the most important thing. Students can prepare their part 2 answers in advance, give memorized speeches, and we don't really know what your English is like. And students that have shown good grammar and vocabulary in the easy questions in part 1 will really be tested in part 3 with the difficult questions. Now, the key to a good and bad score is not so much your first answer, because again, students prepare lots of answers. It's the follow-up questions. Throughout all of the IELTS test, part 3 is the only time where the IELTS examiner can make their own questions depending on what you have said. Now, in part 1, the only time they might change the question is if you're a high school student and the questions are about your studies at universities, they will change them a little bit there. Otherwise, they can't change the questions in part 1. Part 2, of course, you have the questions on the paper, you can't change those. Oh, and I've had many students say, oh, can I change the topic? Can I ask for a different topic? No, you can't. The examiner has chosen the topic before you have walked in that room. They don't know you, but they've chosen that topic. They do not change it for you because that would not be fair. So no matter what you've done in part 1 and 2, in part 3, they're going to see, can you really talk? And so you're going to say something, they're going to listen to what you said and then challenge you. Now, a couple of things here. Why do we have these follow-up questions? And there's a few very good reasons for this. First of all, it means that the IELTS test has better integrity than the TOEFL test. Now, the TOEFL test is done on computer. There's a question, you speak, they record your answer, they send it to somebody, I think over in America, they mark it without ever having seen you. The problem with that is people can just memorize lots and lots and lots of answers, and most students do that, and they kind of can get an okay speaking score, even if their English is terrible. Now, 5 years ago, England and Australia accepted the TOEFL as a score into universities. They do not do this anymore. Now, English Australian universities will only accept the IELTS score because it's just TOEFL students were getting there with terrible English. And so the IELTS is a better test because of that. And so now more universities around the world take the IELTS score because of the part 3 section. In fact, the examiner is testing you and challenging you. Can you have a real conversation? And that's the second thing. It's testing real ability, the ability to talk to somebody, not memorized ability. And the ability to memorize answers doesn't mean you have good English. Real English skills, real language skills. I had a friend who learned thousands of words in Chinese. They have much better vocabulary than me, but they go to meet people and they couldn't talk. They couldn't use any of the vocabulary. That kind of student doesn't do well. You need to be able to they ask you a question, you listen, you answer the question. They ask you a different question, you answer that question, you answer that question, you answer that question, you answer any question they throw at you because you have good English. That's what the IELTS test is all about, that you can answer any question they throw at you. Now, of course, that's not always easy. Remember, we go back to what we talked about, using the grammar structure to start your answer, even if you don't have the best ideas, but at the very least, you're saying something. Also, they ask the follow-up questions to get more depth from your answers. So a lot of students just give a very general answer to the question. And again, this is another really, really common mistake. It could be say the question we looked at earlier about what do you think about athlete salaries these days? Say a student said, I think athletes earn too much money and it is not fair. Again, that's not really exploring the topic. Not a bad answer if it was part one. In part three, we want more depth, more exploration of that topic. So they might ask an extra question so that you say a lot more about this. Okay. And the most important thing, it is more like a real world conversation. Of course, it's not completely like a real world conversation, because in a real world conversation, you both ask questions, you talk to each other. But that's one of the main reasons why I didn't really enjoy being an IELTS examiner, is because it's so one-sided. I ask the question, and I have to sit there and listen to your answers, and the same answers, and the same answers from so many different people, and it became very boring to hear all the students give exactly the same answers and not be able to engage. And when you did have an interesting student, you want to talk to them, but you can't. The IELTS examiners can't just break away and have a conversation. That was the most annoying thing for me. But for you, the IELTS test, part 3, is testing that you can have a conversation. Okay, so what we're going to look at now is a few examples of, say, I'm going to give a short answer from a student and then show the question that they would follow up with. So, for this question, how might watching TV affect a child's behavior? So, say you said this: TV can make children behave badly. If they see something on TV, they will copy that behavior. Now, at this point, clearly we need more information. We want an example for this kind of answer. So I'm going to continue how this conversation might go. So what kind of behavior might they copy? If they see somebody on television hitting other people, the children might go to school and hit other children. But there's a lot of violence in cartoons and television, and most children don't go to school and hit other children. Why not? Okay, so I'm testing you you said something. I think we need more information. I don't think you've given me enough information. Well, why don't all children go to school and beat other children? There's always violence on TV. But answer to that, the student might say, well, I think the TV is just part of the influence, because good parenting can overcome the influence from television. If parents teach their children that violence is wrong and that what they see on television is not real, then those students will not go and hit other children. But if children are left in front of the television with nobody to talk to them about right and wrong, they might not know the difference, and those are the children that will maybe hit others. So it really comes down to parents spending time teaching their children. Okay, so that would be a nice progression. They generally might ask 2 follow-up questions, maybe 3. They're not going to spend the whole thing, but they'll probably spend a third of part 3 on that topic, maybe a little bit longer, and try and hit 2 main sections and really discuss those sections deeply. Usually the first question, they might not have a follow-up question for. Okay, so we're going to have a look at a couple more, and again, we'll follow the conversation through and see how it might develop. What kind of things do we need to learn about in school? Okay, so say the student says, I think schools need to teach us how to do things like manage money and look after ourselves. So they might say, oh, okay, so do schools in your country teach these skills? Like, well, no, they don't. I mean, we learn some maths, but they don't really teach us about managing money and like cooking and cleaning and looking after ourselves. Why not? Because I think these are skills that in the past our parents would teach us. And school would teach us specialized subjects like maths and science that our parents didn't know about. And so why do you think that's changing? Okay, so why do you think that's changing? Now, you've started a good topic here. You've talked about the parents teach this thing. Schools don't teach this, they teach specialized things. So I think, well, this could be a good topic. I'm guiding this conversation in a direction. Well, I think the main problem or the main reason for this is that parents spend less time with their children than in the past. Maybe 30 or 40 years ago, mothers would spend more time at home and teach their children all the skills they needed to look after themselves. But now, women are also working. And so children are spending more time in school and more time at home by themselves, so they don't get to learn practical, real-life skills like they did in the past. And again, that's a good conversation. If you can respond to the different questions and keep the conversation going, you're probably very close to getting those 6.5s and 7s that most students want. Even if you can only touch on them a little bit, you're still probably going to be able to get the 6s. It's when you can't answer the follow-up questions that you're really not going to get the score that you want. Okay, I think I have one more conversation for us to look at. Let's have a look. Oh, why not? Okay. So the question here, is it popular in your country for people to own expensive items? Okay, so the student for this question might say, yes, it's very popular because with the development of our economy, people have lots more money than before. Okay, so I might then go, do you think this has made people happier? You know, owning luxury items. The topic here is probably shopping or luxury goods, owning things, possessions. Okay, so we might talk about possessions, or we might go down the connection between possessions and happiness. So do you think this has made people happier? I don't think that most luxury and expensive items make people happier, because they only give you some short-term satisfaction, but really at the end of the day, they are just possessions. So why do people like to buy such expensive things if it doesn't make them happy? I think the main reason for this is that people like to feel better than other people. So if you are rich, you like to show off that you are rich and make other people feel jealous. And so if you buy an expensive car or an expensive handbag, then you get to go around in public and make other people feel poor, and that makes you feel better about your life. Now, they might ask another question and explore that a little bit further, because that is a very deep conversation. It can go so much further with that conversation. But normally that will depend on the timing in the IELTS test. Often they'll want to push it further, and often you'll say something they might think, well, I actually don't agree with that. So they're asking you questions to challenge if you're right or not, and prove that you might be wrong. And if you're wrong, you might say, oh, actually, now that I think about it, it probably isn't always true. In many situations, this is the case. The one more thing I wanted to look at, I actually put this answer in here on purpose, because of this phrase. It's very popular because with the development of the economy, people have lots more money than before. The phrase, with the development of our economy. This is not a bad phrase, but there's a problem. It is used way, way, way too much, both in speaking and in the writing. And what happens is IELTS examiners and foreign English teachers in China, we hate some of these phrases now. It's like every coin has two sides, broaden our horizons, open our eyes, the development of the economy. There's some phrases which I think some schools just teach everyone, or some books maybe teach everyone in China, learns these terrible phrases. Actually, broaden our horizons, open our eyes, every coin has two sides. I think these are pretty terrible phrases. This one here, with the development of our economy, I don't think it's a bad phrase. I just think it's so commonly used. With the development of society, with the development of our economy, with the development of technology, it's used all the time. So I would recommend doing something a little bit different. You could even just say, as our economy has developed. Same thing, different structure to 95% of other students taking the exam. Okay, so that's why I recommend that you just flip it around with as technology has grown and developed in the last 20 years. Okay, by using that kind of flip sentence, you're saying the same thing, but you are original and different. Okay, I believe that is the last slide. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening very, very patiently. I think I will be recording one more video today. So maybe I'll see you later today, maybe I'll see you next week. Thank you very much, and remember to send me your questions so that I can make our 10th video very shortly. Bye-bye.